Okay, wow, she's gone. She's had enough, folks. We are back. We're going to do some listener feedback here because the boss said that we should put it here. It works well thematically with what we're about to do. So, this is interesting. For the first time, I would say, at least in my memory, someone has sent me an audio feedback. My once beloved Donovan Morgan Grant. So I'm gonna hold it up for the viewers so that they can have it, but of course, listeners, I'll be dropping it in. So here we go.
Yeah, it's me. Okay, so first off, with the Matches Malone trilogy, I remember when those issues came out on the day. Um, you are now part of your coverage where these comic books are very much encroaching on my memories of them coming out in the early 2000s. Like I mentioned that I was around for No Man's Land, but like this is kind of when I started reading month by month, and I remember this Matches Malone story, and I was happy that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too. Um, I had forgotten that Brian K. Vaughan wrote. I thought that Brubaker did, because I know Brubaker is going to be writing Batman with Scott McDaniel on art from here on in for a while. And your whole thing about answer thee this, Donovan Grant, like it's completely unfounded. Because like when have I ever once in my lifetime, or at least on recorded audio, said that like Batman is perfect and he can do all of the things? I never said that, and I never would say that. I'm always chasing the stories where Batman shouldn't be vulnerable, infallible, and an idiot. Like that's why Mask of the Phantasm is the best movie, because he like loses half that movie. Um, in regards to this story, I do think it's a little characteristically inconsistent for him to be kind of just swept in the weeds of like personas, but at the same time, like I see what they were going for. I'll say this though: we're now in a this is kind of start with the Officer Down, but we're now definitely at the point in the books. This is all leading up to Bruce Wayne Murderer, like in how Nightfall had to lead up and No Man's Land had to lead up. Like we're now in that kind of era where like the whole bat jerk thing that you love to decry so much, like this is where that characterization and the writers and the characters' attention to that characterization gets its hardest work out. Like Bruce Wayne Murderer and Fugitive is all about like the Bat family is saying, why is Bruce Wayne such a dick? Um, and that's why I think that it's one of my favorite Batman stories, and that's why I demand to be on it when you cover it. But this is kind of getting to that. Like this is not kind of a. I know it seemed that the story was done at the end of part three, but this is really kind of dipping its toe into that. Um, Additionally, in regards to your modern reviews with Batgirl, with the joke that kills and such, I have to say, because and we talked about this, like off the air, as it were. But I was very impressed with your summation of the story and how the themes really are disrespectful towards Barbara. I mean, I said it before. I don't necessarily take too much umbrage with Joker saying you're just like a Robin or whatever, because that's just that's villain talk. But kind of linking the two together in this sort of pseudo romantic connected way is I can see that being a story avenue, but that's inappropriate and that's also unnecessary. I mean, I don't think that I feel that Barbara. I don't even know if Barbara necessarily needs an arch enemy, but if she does, it's not going to be the Joker. It's going to be her brother or Killer Moth or Calculator or Shiva. I don't know. But like the Joker, I don't see the Joker being so weird about it, and I don't see Barbara being so weird about it too. But also, like personally speaking, I just found the issue to be. I mean, the issue is offensive. I agree with that. You've made your case, and I agree with the case that you made. But I found it to be like a waste of time. I mean, like we've done this story where Barbara. Did you know that Barbara can beat the Joker? It's like, well, if that's the case. Why doesn't she beat him all the time? Like why don't she just go after him? Like, why does she have to wait until he shows up towards her doorstep? And why is it that DC feels the need to remind us, do they not have confidence in this character? Um, they clearly don't because they're canceling the book. This feedback comes in after the devastating week at DC and Warner Brothers in regards to all the layoffs and the cancellations between this and Red Hood Outlaw and Batman the Outsiders was just the tip of the iceberg. So we'll see how things go along. Um, what if she dies? Oh no. Or what if Batman fires her? So I enjoyed last episode of Batgirl Oracle. I enjoyed the previous episode of Batgirl Oracle. And I was listening to the first part where you're talking about the Magic Malone story, and we were kind of getting into that like sex scene, which I guess I wasn't aware of. Although I remember you and Harry briefly mentioning it. I'll be sure to visit Pornhub to see if they have that freely available for viewing pleasure.
Oh my.
Sounds rather grotesque though, but it's probably funny. Anyways, hope to be on the next Cassandra Cain story review, and I will talk to you guys later.
Guess what, Donovan? You're not on the next Cassandra Cain story review. So thank you, Donovan. Oh, you already know Carolyn betrayed you. She said, Donovan, he's not good enough for this. Have me on. And I said, okay. So no, it's not what happened. It's just, like I said, I was doing those 2 months and we were definitely doing Birds of Prey. And the 2 months happened to be Batgirl 13 and 14. So that's what we're doing. Thanks for speaking in. I was trying to think of what that would be. Thanks for sending audio. I appreciate that. And I love when he says, I never said that, because I could visualize him in my actual physical space saying that to me. Let's see. Any comments on that? Oh, I've got some questions for you. Did you in Fit 47, because you had to read it, was it just me who felt, because he said being compared to a Robin as just a villain thing, but I felt like, oh, why are you doing that, taking, everything she's accomplished away from her and comparing her? Were you closer to my feelings of it or Donovan's of that's just villain talk? There's nothing to really be so offended at with that.
I have so many other things to say about that too. I had so many other problems with it that didn't stick out to me as a big problem. But I think it can be totally taken either way. But your objection to like it takes away from her all the stuff that she's accomplished. This Batgirl hasn't accomplished that much. Yeah, this Batgirl doesn't have a PhD and work in library science, and this Batgirl didn't run for Congress, and this Batgirl didn't. Oh no, what was the name of that? She worked for like this policy think tank thing that she. It was like when she was friends with Marcy. Okay, I can't remember the name of it. It's in my book. That's terrible.
Oh yeah.
But some kind of policy thing, like of stopping crime through policy. I don't remember what it was, but the point is, this Batgirl didn't do any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Because she is more equivalent to a Robin in some ways. So I don't know if he is thinking that is a diminutive even or not, or if he just thinks it'll annoy her. So I could see it either way.
Yeah. Do you feel like James Jr., aka JJ, is being groomed to be her arch nemesis?
I guess, whatever.
So dismissive. Okay.
No, I would love to have Calculator back as her arch nemesis, because someone who is more of a match for her brain-wise and tech-savvy-wise, and also then we could bring back Wendy, so I'm cool with that too.
That's very true. Yep. And just for viewership, you can't find those sex scenes on Pornhub. He was just saying that they're on the YouTube, which is practically Pornhub, I suppose. I don't know. Which I made you watch those 2 sex scenes because I wondered what your feedback was on those and why they struck me as odd. So
it was hard to not knowing anything really else about the character. It was hard for me to make any kind of informed comment on it.
Yeah. Well, I brought in, which now you've seen it, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. There were sex scenes, but you don't see anything. And like, that's fine. You don't need to really to have that emotional connection between the women. So I felt like
kind of like old school Hollywood. They didn't necessarily show someone getting bloodily murdered, but you knew they got murdered, and you didn't see, so it's a different style, which I prefer.
Yeah.
I understand maybe not other people may not.
Yeah.
But what did you think about what Donovan said, the actual content of him saying, I never said that? Would you say that's an accurate portrayal?
That he never portrayed Batman as perfect.
Is it possible that you maybe have set up Donovan as a straw man who has maybe never made such declarations?
Oh, I don't know, man. He's always defending Batman. I remember recording with him in a hotel on the eve of, I think it was on the eve of one of our friends' weddings, and this was when he first said to me that he felt I was hypocritical, and it annoyed him because of hypocritical and judgmental, and it annoyed him in regards to Batman. So that's where I'm getting that, is because he always defends Batman. So clearly he thinks Batman's perfect. Don't you think? That's not a logical fallacy.
Not sure those two things are equivalent. I'm pretty sure there's some gap that you bridged there.
Oh, I don't know.
Is it possible that, like Facebook's algorithm, you're just trying to build outrage to get more views?
Well, I did have the clickbait last episode with the rage quit, and I'm pretty sure I've gotten the most views I ever had on my YouTube video. So it works. It works. I'm only building his outrage because it's fun.
Aha. So you have just admitted it then.
I guess. But I don't know. I just
mischaracterized him for your own amusement.
Well, you know what? You say what you want to say. He always defends Batman, so I thought it was a logical leap. And I will call him out when I'm talking about Batjerk, and I'll ask him to explain things. The other thing he said was that he demands to be on for Batman Fugitive Murderer. And that actually recently came up. I was talking with him about that, and I said, "Oh, I'll have to look for a good co-host for that." And he said, "You've already found them." And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I'll have to check my Excel document because I don't really trust you with my pot." But it is on the Excel, so he will come on for the Batman Fugitive Murderer, so we can be disappointed in advance.
I look forward to hearing it. I did read Bruce Wayne, Murderer and Fugitive. I don't know, a couple of years ago. So I remember it a little bit.
Yeah. So thank you, Donovan. And you've got someone that is your advocate in Carolyn, because clearly I'm not going to advocate for you. My next person did write in. It's from Ian Prime, aka Ian Miller. He says, "Dear Stella, while I'm afraid I cannot comment on The Last of Us 1 or 2, not having played it or being much of a gamer, I am pretty much completely in agreement with you on your commentary for Batgirl 47. I saw some comments on Twitter saying, sometimes angrily, that this issue was Babs having a complete victory over Joker, and sometimes being mad because they like Joker better than Babs. Wow. So they're angry because of that issue, but on Joker terms. And I'm baffled by this reading. Babs spends the whole issue at Joker's mercy. Yes, she fights back, but as you point out, failing every single time. And her victory, it's at the end, is Pyrrhic at best and won't mean anything to the Joker since he's going to continue to be the main villain in the main Batman title. The whole thing is quite literally a rehashing of the Killing Joke, and that's so frustrating to me. I also liked the art, but it was in service to a story which just subjected Babs to the same situation we've already seen. You'd think DC would have learned the frustration this kind of depiction causes with the change the cover controversy during the Burnside run. And the problem is, it would be so easy to do a tie into Joker War without rehashing Joker War. Maybe he means the Killing Joke. Without rehashing the Killing Joke in such an offensive way. Have Babs being a detective, finding clues about what Joker is up to, and warning Batman, foiling some of his plans. If you can't have her actually take Joker down because he's the center of the event, have her take down a side plot. Arg. Yours in rage quitting, Ian. My thoughts had already been spoken in anger on the previous episode. Do you have anything to say about 47, or do you want to reserve your thoughts as they tie into 48?
Which would you prefer?
48 seems like it's completely different now. I mean, except for the first couple pages with Joker there. So it is, well, and the whole Chip situation. So it's, if you want to talk about 47 now, be my guest.
All right. I think that like he says, I guess the idea is supposed to be that she's in control and she's victorious and she's strong with or without the use of her legs. But like we were talking about at the beginning, if you're using disability as a plot device and you're using this chip as a way to turn disability on and off, that's not very good storytelling, and it's also offensive to people with disabilities. It should be offensive to people who are not currently living with disabilities, you know? So it's boring. It's offensive and boring to tell this same story repeatedly. It struck me as okay, so there's this part where Barbara says, or she thinks, what scares a man most? A woman who laughs at him. What really, really bothered me about this is that maybe the writer doesn't know the rest of that quote, which is from Margaret Atwood, you know, who wrote The Handmaid's Tale and other stuff.
Oh.
The full quote is, men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid men will kill them. It's not funny. It's not a quote that's meant to empower women to laugh at men. So her then saying, Barbara, keep laughing, it's a good weapon, is a real problem because, you know, in real life, you know, most women who are murdered by men that they know very well. That's not true of men who are murdered. So it's not funny. Women have to, unfortunately, take that very seriously. Women should be afraid that men will kill them, because most women are killed by men. And most of them are killed by men that they're in a very close relationship with. So having Barbara say half of that quote and then having her kind of laugh, and then after that, having the Joker control her body is ignorant and gross. And having it end with a laugh like the Killing Joke and like that issue of Batman where Catwoman laughs, it's not clever. It's just plagiarism. There's no point to it. It doesn't develop the Joker's character. It doesn't develop Barbara's character. It's out of character for Barbara. And in short, I guess I would say that this is one of the worst issues of Batgirl I've ever seen. And I have literally read every single one of them.
Yep.
So that's the shortest way I can express how I feel.
Yeah. So I have several follow-up points to that. Thank you for that. I mean, I'm glad also that I wasn't alone. Donovan actually called me, I think that night that episode aired, and talked to me about, like, I opened his eyes to that, and because he read it and he thought it was bad, but he didn't think it was so bad, which I even commented, I think, when I was talking about it. And so it's good to know just that it's not just me because of how connected I am with Barbara Gordon, but it really was poorly written, I feel like. So let's see, what was trying to think of which point I want to tackle first of what you just said. Oh, one of the thoughts was I couldn't remember if this was the worst I had read or not. So because I was thinking back to Gail Simone, that I did not care for that run at all. But I don't think I ever, and I was recently flipping through because I was trying to figure out about JJ, which we'll talk about soon. But I feel like that is honestly the lowest I've ever given something. And you yourself are saying in your not biblical, like your biographical reading, bibliographical, that's what it would be, I guess. Bibliographical reading, that was the worst that you ever read.
Yeah, when I wrote my Super Women book, I made a point to make sure that I had literally read every issue of Batgirl. Not only because, and I did that with all the chapters too,
Yeah.
not only because I wanted to be comprehensive, but also so I could avoid that inevitable moment at a conference when somebody stood up and said, but what about issue 29?
Yes.
No, I read that one too, and no. So I wanted to know what I was talking about.
Yeah,
so, and I've kept up with it since then. So yeah, I've read them all. This is probably the worst.
Okay.
And if it were just offensive,
yeah,
but like really creative, but it's, like I said, it's offensive and it's boring and it's hashed, and it's just, I just want this run of Batgirl to end. I just want it to
That's my chant now, is 3 more issues, 3 more issues. Stella, you can make it. You said you used the word plagiarism with the Killing Joke.
No.
Would you, is that, do you stand by that? Do you think it is an homage? And then if you think it's plagiarism or even homage, what do you think about how I was able to see or connect that laughing moment where she laughs and he gets upset back to that, was it the 96 tie into the best Batman and Robin, the best Batman film, Batman and Robin, whereas Batgirl, and yes, you know it's true, where Batgirl laughs at him. Is that an homage? Is that plagiarism?
I have no memory of that because, like
Okay.
people, I've only seen Batman and Robin once because it's not good.
No.
Yeah, that's it. No, I think I've seen it twice. But anyway, when I said plagiarism, I meant that it was plagiarizing that issue of Batman where the Joker and Catwoman are lying on the floor.
Okay.
It's literally the same.
Yes.
So now, I mean, what one wants to hear in this kind of situation when one writes a story like that is, oh, what a clever homage. But I thought a lot of people really liked that Batman story. I didn't. I thought it was out of character for Catwoman, and I think this is out of much, way out of character for Barbara Gordon. But I don't know who this Barbara Gordon is anyway, and I'm not sure most of the writers after 2011 have either.
Yeah. I'm glad that you got that connection, because I thought it was that same issue, the tie-in to the wedding. And
Yeah.
Don had written in afterwards and he said this is also an homage to a panel where, I guess it was the one that he and I covered, where Cass and Shiva are laying down also next to each other.
But they're not laughing.
I don't think they're laughing.
Right? This is because they've just fought and now yeah, I don't think they're laughing though.
I'd have to double check on that, but he said, and I don't, who knows if we're giving too much credit to the writer for like pulling back in there. So then there's my other point is, and I do want to get to Margaret, that quote. So I hope there are all these thoughts that I have in my head. How much credit isn't even the right word, but how much do you hold Castellucci accountable for what we have been reading? And how much do you feel like it's the editors? I mean, do you think the editors just said Batgirl and Joker need to have this altercation? This is what, and then it's just her filling in the gap. So we do need to hold her accountable for that, or do you think it's more than that?
I think that Gail Simone's run on Birds of Prey is probably in my top 5 favorite comic runs ever. And when I read it, felt like nobody knows Barbara Gordon like Gail Simone. Nobody. When I read her Batgirl run after The Cure, I was like, this is a tough sit. I almost felt like it didn't feel like the same author to me anymore. But then more and more stuff started to come out about the constraints that she was given. Like Barbara couldn't have any of the friends that we had seen before. Barbara needed to have a love interest. Barbara needed to have the use of her legs. So like those are big constraints, because what was so great about, and she's younger and she hasn't been Oracle, she was only Oracle for a brief time. So like each of those things was a strength of Gail Simone's Birds of Prey. All of those things really went into how she characterized Barbara as a mother figure and a mentor figure and a friend and a girlfriend and a leader. She couldn't do any of that. That was all taken away. And she had to be younger and she had to have the use of her legs. So how Gail Simone implemented her run, given those constraints, I didn't enjoy reading it, but now that I look back at it compared to the last couple dozen Batgirl issues, I feel like, yeah, I was right. She knows who Barbara Gordon is, but she was writing within these constraints that she really couldn't control. So I do think it's very possible that Castellucci was told pretty much what you said, like, these two have to have a confrontation and it has to end in this particular way. And James Jr. has to be an antagonist. you know, that kind of thing. But so you got some limited agency writing wise in how you get there. And I think that Gail Simone had a lot of experience writing the character before she got those handcuffs put on her, and that it would be hard for someone with less experience with Barbara Gordon to come up with something as true to the character. Is that as fair as I can be?
Yeah. It's interesting, especially because Gail Simone has, I think, a lot of weight behind her name, or at least more than potentially Scott did or Castellucci. And so, and it seems like Scott, at the very least, couldn't push back or anything. Because I made the point last episode that, you know, I could make a stand and say this isn't what Barbara Gordon would do, but DC could just fire me and get a stand-in writer. There's really no safety there, it seems like. So it's just interesting that someone that has a weight behind her name, like Gail Simone, had to also deal with these very same issues. And the fact also, that's what, 2011, and we're in 2020, and the same stuff is happening, where writers, female writers, I don't know, is it writers all, and Scott Snyder's probably not dealing with this, I'm going to say that, or Brian Michael Bendis. So female writers are not having much agency or a voice with their own tales.
Well, and more of the newer writers are women, and you know, white women and women of color, and also men of color. And the newest people are the most vulnerable people. So they're going to have the least sway. But Gail Simone also said that when they asked her if she wanted to write that Batgirl, she basically was like, no, I don't, you know, that's not my Barbara Gordon, you know. But they pretty much told her, okay, well, fine. But if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it with these particular constraints. So Gail Simone kind of thought that she would try to do her best with that.
Yeah. Someone she trusts rather than, some unknown quantity potentially. Okay, well, Ian, thank you for writing in. I'm a bit flummoxed. I think he even used that word, but I'm flummoxed why people are, I guess, praising 47, or they're upset that Babs had a victory over the Joker because they like the Joker better than Babs. But people, I don't know. I always seem to be in an opposite opinion as people on the internet, so I'm used to that. But I'm glad that you're at least there with me, and Ian's there, and Donovan, so it's not just me being crazy.
Did you want to say something about Margaret Atwood?
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. This is why it's good to have a co-host. So I brought this up with Sam. This is one of my pet peeves, out of context Bible quotes. Now I know that's not a Bible quote, but this is why I don't like, that's what she did. She absolutely took that quote, cut it in half, and used it to serve her own purpose. But when you pull back, it's a terrible quote to use. And that's why, I didn't even know that. Thank you you opened my eyes again. I'm actually not a fan of the Margaret Atwood. So
I can't remember where it's from though. I can't remember if it's from The Handmaid's Tale or something else that she wrote. But I know for sure that it was her that said that.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you think she knew probably, but I wonder what would have happened if you could have had the Joker fill in the gap at the other end, and women are.
Now that would have been a more interesting story, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. If she, laughed at him and he said something like, "You might think that I'm afraid that you're going to laugh at me, but," or something, that would be sort of menacing. But I think what we were supposed to get is she's so smart, which obviously not, because he can get into her apartment yet again without her being able to figure that out. But that she's so smart that she can figure out a way around this, which is, self-mutilation.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the only way women can win against men. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the only way she can win against the Joker. No, she will go up against the Joker in classic Birds of Prey that you haven't gotten to yet. And and it will be fantastic. Not like this.
Yeah, I bet not. Okay, well, thank you, Ian. Next up is Professor Allen, as he says he's my second favorite professor, or the second best professor, and he puts you up as number one there. Well, Stella, since you asked for a check on your theology as discussed in episode 195 in the context of The Last of Us Part 2, you will be pleased to know that you have passed inspection. Of course, now I have to have my business cards reprinted to add chief theology consultant to my current title of lead hairstyle and fashion correspondent. By the way, on the heresy scale of St. Thomas Aquinas to Arius, you landed just on the good side of Origin. Take care and God bless you, Professor Allen, co-host of Dorkiness to Light. So there you go. So I won't be, there won't be people coming for me. And then finally, it's a nice little text chain. Well, it's just really one particular person writing. Normies. People love the Sam Heath. So I said, Sam Heath, you better bring the viewership to me. And one of my normie friends, who used to be my nemesis, but then she left, her name is Ash White. She wrote in after listening to our Politics in Gotham podcast. She said, guys, I watched both sections of your podcast discussion back to back. I couldn't put it down. I carried my phone around with me doing house projects all yesterday afternoon. I cannot express how engrossing it was. I learned so much about politics, philosophy, history, God. It made me miss in-service and lunchtime conversations with you guys and our Cov peers so much. And then some crying emojis. And was there anything else? I think I would watch 1,000,000 episodes of you two discussing important things. And then I told her that I would post this on here. I also sent that episode to the boss lady, and which was scary. So we'll see what she has to think about it. But I figure if any of my normie friends would watch or listen to any of them, it would be that, because of Sam and also politics and things like that. But do you have any thoughts on our discussion? Since, I'm not looking for praise, but do you have any, constructive criticism? Did you have any thoughts on that particular episode since you're somewhat involved in it?
Yeah, nothing I love more than hearing people critique my work. So that was a fun app.
Did we critique it?
Actually, no. I really,
Okay.
as I actually really did say to you, was not expecting that my chapter would be one of the chapters that you talked about, because you and I have kind of already talked about it. It was, I presented part of it at this conference that you and I and Donovan and Josh went to, the Batman conference last year. It seems like 1,000,000 years ago.
I know, yeah.
So I guess I don't know. Yeah, but just because you and I talked about it didn't mean you were necessarily done talking about it. So I do appreciate that you did. And I'm glad that it seemed like you mostly liked it. I can tell Sam that I did have images, but DC denied me permission to use them, which happened with my Superwomen book also. That's why it's all screen grabs.
Okay.
Because they're considered fair use, because they're just a teeny tiny fraction of a film or a TV show. My new book, for whatever reason, different publisher, there are lots of comics images in it, and the publisher is considering a comics panel here and there fair use, along with scraps of TV and movies. So, but I agree with you, not having the images is a drag.
Yeah.
If he would like the PowerPoint that I used at the conference to see the costume stuff I was talking about, I'm happy to send it to him.
Yeah, because I kept having to Googinate, as he said, and show it up and everything.
So I'm happy to do that. I also really liked the Christina Knopf chapter, and I'm not just saying that because she and I have become friendly over the last year. We met at a conference in Toronto last August. And so, yeah, I thought I liked that chapter as well. And Aiden Diamonds, which was the one more about violence.
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought it was a really good show, but I mean, it was sort of like my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Because I teach a political thought class. So I kind of got the references that Sam was making, and I had read the book. So I don't know, I hope your audience was not so narrow as it has to be people who are political scientists who also happen to teach a political theory class, because I'm not sure how much that overlaps with the BTO world.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was fun.
Yeah, I think I warn people about politics and that there'd be religion. So I guess if that's not in their wheelhouse, then they'll skip over it. But
Yeah, I mean, I think every episode of your show is about politics, really. Whether
I
I
hope
mean,
not.
all comics have politics in them. There's politics in how they've decided who to center and call a hero and what kinds of people
Mm,
are called enemies. There's politics in how some people are portrayed as strong subjects and other people are portrayed as just kind of, one-dimensional objects to be looked at. And there's politics in when anytime you talk about what superheroes do, which is often vigilantism, there's usually some kind of stand on what is right and what is wrong. All that stuff is it's politics.
mm, yeah.
Sorry, but it's true.
Well, I guess we'll see. And hopefully I didn't lose any viewership if there were big Trump supporters and we had to talk about Donald. Okay, well, we'll move on. I don't want you to get angry. Woo, okay. We're about to get into some, I think, happier stuff, and then we'll take a tonal dip. And then we'll come back because we'll talk about literature. And then we'll perform a little scene and we'll act a little scene out. You're not prepared for it, but that's okay. Okay. So
That'll
first
be
up,
that'll be in our 5th hour, listeners.
okay.
Doing
That's
that.
offensive to me. Oh my heavens. Okay. Batgirl number 13. We're only 2.5 in. Batgirl 13, which the subtitle is Batgirl. April 2001. Writer Kelly Puckett, penciler Damian Scott, inker Robert Campanella, and colorist Jason Wright. There's no Barbara appearance, but I feel like I should actually cover all of these Batgirls, and also this ties into 14, so it makes sense. Here we go. This is taken from DC Wikia. The U.S. government ordered an agent named Johnson, who is their best sniper, to assassinate Cassandra Cain. But when Johnson had Cassandra, who was sitting in the back of a. This is weird. Are you sure that was Cassandra Cain?
Hmm? Oh, yeah.
I don't. Whoa, I'm not sure about this, but this is what happens when I didn't preview this. He was hired to assassinate someone. I didn't think that person in the car was Cassandra Cain. Now I'm going to have to look through that. It was clearly a woman, but anyways. When Johnson had this woman who was sitting in the back of a car in his telescopic sight, she actually spotted him and Johnson could not pull the trigger. Well, that makes sense then, given that story point. But why was Cassandra in a car, and whose car was it? Later, Cassandra watched how Johnson was chased by CIA agents. Despite being in imminent danger, Johnson tried not to hurt any innocent pedestrians, in particular the small boy. He jumps over them, but the federal agents actually just kind of trampled over the kid. Cassandra decides to follow and help Johnson after he got caught. And although Johnson thought that he did not deserve her help, she showed her appreciation by giving him a train ticket as well as a new ID to start over somewhere else. Okay. So apologies about that. It makes me seem unknowledgeable, but I didn't think that that was Cassandra. Let's do a little boo 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 here. I enjoy this now that I can use it. So let's see here. He's flashing back. I have to find this. Right here. She was looking at me. I mean, that makes sense given that she would, I mean, of all people, be able to spot someone. But I just didn't think that that was Cassandra. Why would Cassandra be in a car?
That's a good question, but I thought that she was looking at me part was supposed to tell us that it was her.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So, anyways, there's that. So, I'll go back to the beginning of it. I like to talk about the covers now. So, what did you think about this? This is CIA, which I thought it was the FBI. Good gosh. Okay. So, anyways, he's got a CIA agent badge and
Yeah,
he's being
I don't think they
punched
have badges, but okay.
because they're supposed to be secret plumbers. Yeah, and it's the Batgirl costume, which is a bit of a lie, given that's one of the story points in the next issue that she wasn't wearing that. And I can't tell what this is. It's an 8, like a sign with an 8. I don't know where that 8 is coming from, but
I
anyway,
guess
it's probably actually not Johnson, but one of his cohorts. What were you saying?
just if you're a cop and you have a badge number, but again, almost certainly CIA people don't
Oh.
have badges.
You might be right that that's his badge number at the back. Yeah. And I thought it was the FBI, but guess I'm wrong on that. Okay. Let's see here. Some of my points. Ooh, the art. And in particular, I've got a question on the coloring because it seems to switch. I'm going to have to find the particular. So reticle, that makes sense that you've got the color changing there. Let me find which one. This is the particular one. So it's darker toned, which it is at night. We can see the shadows and everything. But it's interesting once they get outside, how it turns this particular, I don't know, sepia tone. And even I think there's another example that I could potentially find that. And yeah, so see, then we have this red all of a sudden. What do you think about this, the coloring, the wash almost that they do with some of these pages?
I thought that the red was through the scope.
Oh,
See,
yes, that makes sense because our agent is down there looking through. Yep, that makes
yeah,
sense.
like
Okay.
when she was in the car
Yep.
earlier.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the sepia tone once they step outside onto
Yeah, I
the
mean,
roof?
very often that's used more for a flashback or something. So
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't, I didn't know if I was missing something there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you that there were just this would be the time to have Donovan because he always has these insights of why there's this tonal change.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm clearly the inferior co-host.
Oh my gosh, I didn't mean it that way. I'm so sorry. I just mean like he always, I can't say anything, just make it worse.
I wasn't
Okay.
fishing for an apology from you. I was just trying to compliment Donovan.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize. Next one we've got, or next comment for me. Oh, yes. Okay. Do you feel like this issue might be a commentary on secret agencies, wet work, the things the government does? I'm actually thinking about this great film starring Kylo Ren on Amazon called The Report, which I recommend, which talks about torture and the history of the CIA and America using torture to get information. Do you think there's a commentary on any of that? Because we find out that Johnson, all of his assassinations, there was something deeper than that, or they actually had nothing to do with any sort of plot. They were just some sort of person that he was assigned. Or do you think, hey, it's just a story of Cass helping somebody out who has made some mistakes in the past, but she sees some good in him and wants to help him out?
I think a lot of, were you trying to show something here? Because it's just gray.
Is it gray?
Yeah.
Boop. Is it gray now?
No.
You can see the comic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it can be taken in different ways. Like if you look at Batman comics, sort of a long span of it, or Wonder Woman comics or whatever, it's like sometimes they're aligned with government and sometimes they're not. And so I think what tends to happen, and like Jim Gordon is a good example of this, like, Gotham is corrupt, but Gotham PD is corrupt, but Jim is not, and Renee Montoya is not, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like there's kind of a mistrust of institutions
Mhm.
in Bat comics, because otherwise there'd be no need for Batman. But they take care to try to pull out, good apples within that. So I think I felt like it was kind of an extension of that.
Okay. And here I'm seeing FBI Sharp. That's the news that they're going to run the next day to indict him, but FBI sharpshooter. So I was right that it's FBI, but at the beginning, or the cover at least, is telling us it is CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like Cass sees this guy running and hopping over the kid and seeing that there's good in him? Is this portraying her as naive or too trusting just in that action and seeing him like that, because she doesn't investigate, I feel like, the situation as Batman would. She just goes to that warehouse or wherever they were and then goes after him. Is this Cass's nature? Do you feel like she might be too trusting of people and just reads the situation and understands it?
I think the latter. I think that it was trying to show us that just as Cass was trained to be an assassin, but she chooses a moment to say stop, and then is trusted and changes and is taken into the Bat family. She saw that potential like that in this guy because she's so savvy and she reads people so well.
Okay. I can see. It's interesting though to pair this up, this moment as we're seeing now, which doesn't have a sepia, but it's got the red of the of the gun, so that's interesting, with the fact that she knew him to be an assassin, or at least be aware of that. So I wonder what goes through her mind, like thinking he's got a gun, bad, but then seeing him jump over this
Yeah,
kid, good.
he
Yeah.
was trained to be an assassin, but his instincts, his true self is good, like Cass.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think her world, as she sees it, is black and white, or do you think everything is gray for her?
Well, she paints this in a black and white way. I
Mm.
can tell you're good, therefore I will help you. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And the end, which is kind of answered in the next issue, but just as I was reading it, I thought it was interesting that she gives all these documents, but we didn't have a scene with Oracle, because clearly Oracle would have been the one to get this all set up. And I wondered why there wasn't a scene between the two of them. And I thought that could have been interesting dialogue, just to see Cass work through the feeling she has, putting them into words and talking with Oracle about this situation and this agent here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I mean, that's just because I want more Babs in my issues. Any last thoughts on Batgirl 13?
No, I think I would. No, I think the next one. I thought the next one. I'll talk after the next one. Number 13.
Do you want to rate them separately or together?
Together, I think.
Okay, sounds fine. So I'm going to stop this screen share. Derp, 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 derp. Isn't this fun? Now it won't be fun when I screen share 48.
By then the sun will have set, and
you won't
be able to see me, because the reason we started 10 minutes late is because I seem to have broken all the lights in this room.
Man.
And I don't know how to fix them. So we got to be done before sunset.
Heavens above. Okay. Now the pressure is on. Okay, here we go. There's Batgirl. I'll leave that up. So this is Batgirl 14. Uh-oh. I have it listed as Batgirl. That's not really the subtitle, is it? Oh, noes. Oh, no. Well, anyways, this will be edited out. Was it? I don't know what the subtitle was. It can't be Batgirl. Maybe, you know what? I think a lot of these issues don't have subtitles.
Wasn't A Night Alone?
Which is on the cover. I don't even see creator credits. Am I on the right issue? Yep, yeah. There's Babs. Huh.
Well, sometimes it's on the last page.
Okay. No, so there is no title, I suppose. Well, we'll call it A Night Alone. Apologies, people. Okay, this is May 2001. Writer Kelly Puckett, penciler Damian Scott, inker John Lowe, and colorist Jason Wright. After clashing with the CIA, other agencies of the U.S. government are observing Cassandra Cain much closer. After having evaluated video footage, experts are sure that her single skills are not metahuman, but her aggregate speed definitely is. Samples of Cassandra's DNS lead absolutely nowhere. She exists in no database. Meanwhile, Cassandra is back at the clock tower after she said goodbye to Agent Johnson. Oracle is not happy that Cassandra fought against the federal agents without hiding her face behind a mask. With a compromised identity, she will not be able to build up a personal life, but right now Cassandra is only interested in being Batgirl anyway. During the night, Cassandra is visited by Batman, who orders her to accompany him to a cabin outside. Sorry. To a cabin outside of Gotham City. Batman explains that the thugs inside the house have killed Agent Johnson. Now the Dark Knight takes a step aside and lets Cassandra beat up these murderers because that's what a father does. Afterwards, Batman drives Cassandra to her new home. He prepared a Batcave for her because she cannot stay with Oracle anymore without risking compromising Barbara's identity. And might I add, he leaves Cassandra alone. So we'll talk about that. Okay, as you can see, this lovely cover over here with Batjerk in the background. And you got Batgirl with her actual suit on, but no cowl, but her hair is acting as a cowl. Thoughts on this particular cover?
I think it's really cool looking, and I like the red accents.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think her hair and her eyes look really cool too.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I thought about it more,
Uh-oh.
no, I mean, I think it looks cool. I do also think it kind of plays with Orientalist iconography, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that only her eyes are shown can be taken as kind of a ninja sort of thing, an East Asian ninja, or as a Middle Eastern veiling type thing.
Yeah.
But aesthetically, I think it looks really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. There she is, Carolyn Coca, opening our eyes since 2017, 16. When did your first book come out? When did the Superwoman come out?
2016, yes.
2016, there she's been opening her eyes. Okay. I felt like this issue actually brought up a good question about hopes, what hopes we have for someone else, whether it is in their benefit or does the person's desires, the one that's hoping for the other, get in the way, and whether that's fair. So in context, do you feel like Barbara's hopes for Cassandra come from a good place and that she doesn't want all of her life to be Batgirl and she wants her to have some sort of personal life? She mentioned school, things like that. Is that Barbara sort of projecting maybe of what you would want anyone to? Is it coming from a good place? Is she being selfish? What do you think about this?
I think she's just playing that maternal mentor role that she usually plays with Cassandra. And this is not the first time that she's expressed concern for Cassandra, like only training and only crime fighting. She, has supported her, tried to get her to think about pursuing other interests and having more of a well-rounded life, which maybe Cassandra's ready for and maybe not. We can talk about the Batman part in a minute.
Yeah. I feel like it's a trope now, but with films I have seen or TV shows, if there's ever tension between a parent and a child, and it might be over college or something, and you always wanted to go to Yale. No, you wanted me to go to Yale, that sort of thing. And I just wonder, yikes, is this Barbara trying to push something on? And I feel, knowing Barbara, I feel like it does come from a good place. But
sure.
also, I think it's also her experience that Barbara had a personal life and this other identity. So I think there's also something of that should be what everyone wants in this superhuman community. But I shouldn't say superhuman, but in this Bat family, that should be what everyone wants, but that's just not what Cass wants. So I think there's a selfless and a selfish, perhaps.
But I think even if Cass doesn't want that right now, she's just taken a lot of her choice away to have it at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So I think that's Barbara's concern. I mean, this is sort of I took it differently as teenager, maybe doesn't totally think through decision and the parent points out the consequences. It's not, I mean, I know when we were teenagers, we thought we knew everything, but now that we're old, we recognize we really didn't know that much.
Sure.
So she doesn't know another way to live beyond what she's doing right now. So Barbara kind of slowly shows her that green eyes. That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we would all like, but it gets confusing. Yeah, I like that panel there that she just her concern you can see with on her face, on
Yeah.
Barbara's face. And I would also say for my chief hairstylist correspondent that she is wearing a bandana on her head this time, which I think it's the first time I've ever seen. Well, I think she's had, what are those called? Headbands, but not, I don't ever remember her wearing a bandana. This is what you would call a bandana, yes?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so. I don't recall her wearing that before.
Yeah.
I would have
So,
to look back, but I don't remember her wearing that before.
yeah. So, Alan, take notes, sir. Take notes. So then we get to Batman. Do, 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 do. And, well, first of all, Cass disobeys Batman because he says to grab your costume, and she ends up wearing this scandy little thing that she's been wearing this entire time. So she disobeys him. So this is probably the 5th time she should have been fired. Donovan. No, there is one. I'm sorry. There's one quote here. Aha. Yes. He says, I know about your conversation. I'm glad you want to use your identity. It makes you a more effective weapon. So I
I
want
too called out that sentence in my notes.
Ooh. So I've got a clarification. Which identity? I assume it's the Batgirl, and that this is what I'm assuming. So I'm trying not to be judgmental of the Batman, but I feel like what he's saying is, I'm glad you want to use Batgirl, and that because you want to be Batgirl 100% of the time, you will be an awesome weapon. Am I correctly reading this like that? Is that what he means by identity? Use your identity?
Hmm. No, I didn't take it that way,
Okay.
but I see what you mean. I guess I took it as showing your face. And
Ah.
but I didn't, well, okay, there are two things.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you a more effective weapon.
Yep.
First of all, I felt like that is so not what Barbara is saying to her, right? Barbara's saying, I want you to have a full life.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman's like, okay, cool, you're a more effective weapon. Like, okay, look, we know Batman loves Cassandra, but that's not what we're seeing here.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like he was just talking about her like she was a thing, like she
Mm-hmm.
was a tool. And I just felt like that's not the Batman that I like to see with Cassandra, I guess,
Yeah.
is a way of thinking about it. And then I was like, use your identity. Does he think she's going to be scarier because she is wearing all black and has an Asian face? Does that somehow make her a more effective weapon to show
Mm-hmm.
that face? Because nothing else is different. She's just showing her face versus not showing her face.
Yeah.
So I just thought that panel, like I read it over a few times, like I think I'm not getting this.
Yeah.
And if I am, the way I took it, I did not like.
Yeah. I agree that same. I had read it multiple times, just also trying to figure out what he actually meant. And yeah, I didn't think this whole section of this book, I think, is rather negative, which I think we'll get into. But I feel like it contradicts, and maybe it's just the Nolan films, but it contradicts what I feel like Batman normally says, that the mask, instilling fear in others. And
Yeah.
then compared to her actual face, I feel like the mask that's stitched up and is actually horrifying on its own would be more effective as a tool, as a weapon, not her being a weapon, but just as part of that, rather than her actual face.
Yeah, I mean, her costume is really the most fearsome looking and the
Yeah.
most stealthy than compared to anybody's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just didn't get it. And also the Oracle insisted on keeping you with her. Like Barbara is holding her back by like caring for her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, this is one of those parents at odds, parents having, I think, different ideologies or different beliefs for their child, and that causing an issue. because I think Cassandra should stay with Oracle, because Oracle is doing more than just having a house for her to stay in, and she's not put an ankle monitor on her. She's also teaching her different things about the world. She's the one who is letting her go through the database and look at different villains and things like that, and also how to read. So now you've taken that away, and then the fact that this is problematic. I could not believe this, honestly. I mean, Bat Jerk for sure, as Donovan knows, I like to point out that he, yeah. I mean, I guess Batman's just like, she'll be fine here, all alone. I mean, she's been alone for no man's land. Then you've got this loving person with Oracle and Batman to a certain extent, but then to drop her off here was just really interesting. And the fact that you'd compromise Oracle's identity if you stayed with her. You've got Nightwing coming in, you've got Batman, so all of a sudden Cassandra's going to be the one, and he could be talking about their day trips that they've taken with Barbara and Cassandra without her mask. But I could not believe this. It rubbed me the wrong way for sure.
Well, I tried to look at it in more than one way, because the way that I read it initially was absolutely the way that it's framed, like she's so tiny and her word balloon is so tiny in this big space. I read it like this is a little girl in a big space and she's all alone and he's left her alone and he doesn't understand her at all. Like she's more needy than this.
Yeah.
She might be super amazing, stealthy, skilled former assassin, but she's still a kid and needs to be around other people. And for all the specific reasons that you talked about with Barbara as well. I guess it could also be read that Cassandra presents herself as someone who just loves to train and does like solitude and is very independent. And so Batman really gets her. And so this is a good thing for her, and that she appreciates it, but she's a girl of few words, so all she says is bye. Leaves stealthily, so it's like a play on how Batman's always leaving and people don't get to say goodbye to him. So I think that there is a positive way to read it, but that's not how it hit me. It hit me like he doesn't get her. He thinks that she's just a tool and he's leaving her alone with workout stuff. Not even a book. Come on, man. So I had difficulty with this. I felt, like I said, I felt this is not the Batman that I like to see with Cassandra.
Yeah, you don't really have it. The fatherly instincts here. He seems to just misread the entire situation and only treat her as the weapon or the tool, which is unfortunate. Yeah. The other issue I take with Batman is what he does with these murderers. Do you disagree with what he does here? I mean, he clearly knows what's about to happen. Nope, I went too far. So he sets up, he gives context for it, and of course, Johnson, he lays it out, not kindly, I would say. I mean, it's just, I guess it's clinical, right? He just says, your friend on the train, he made a call to his mother under a minute, but it was long enough. So there's no compassion there. It's just very sanitized, I suppose. Can I go ahead? And then afterwards, he knew what she was going to do. Afterwards, he says, good, now we turn them in, see who looks for them. But he like unleashes her and he knows what's about to happen. Obviously, he trusts her that she is not going to kill them. But do you feel like this is responsible in letting her do this extent? When then they could have just taken them out, not as violently as this, and sent them to, but he just, I feel like, allows her to unleash her fury on them as far as she is able.
Yeah, I guess what we're supposed to think is he knows her so well, he knew she would react this way and that this is what she would want to do, so he was enabling her to do it, and also it helps his agenda of having criminals fear him and her. But in the larger context of the story and contrasting his behavior with Barbara, I mean, I just think it's needlessly violent, and
Yeah.
maybe as a parental figure, he could teach her other ways of dealing with disappointment and anger other than flattening people. That doesn't seem like the greatest kind of life teaching to
Yeah.
me.
It reminds me of just this panel over here on the left where you have his shadow and she's down. I mean, it reminds me of honestly Palpatine and Anakin Skywalker. You know, like, good job.
Wow.
That's good. It just, yeah, kind of, and the blood, you know, looking at Dooku laying down there or something, like, it just,
Like,
it's menacing. Yeah, in a bad way. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, good analogy.
Okay, let's see, what else do we have? Oh, this is the third story where someone that Cass helps or is trying to help gets killed. Since we are now clearly in a repeated theme, does this tell us anything about Cass? For me, it's like, are we trying to portray her as incapable? You know, like, these people she's helping, they're dying, and then she has to, then it's on her, that weight is on her, and she's got to do something about it. We had Karen from the last issue, and then way back when, I can't remember his name, but the guy who was killed at Blackgate, I think it was, and just having to pick up that weight, and now it's on her shoulders, and how does she deal with it? Is this, it's just accidental, or is it a theme? And then if it is a theme, what do you think this tells us about Cass, maybe intentionally or unintentionally from the writers?
Well, it's funny because on the one hand, we're kind of we're kind of led to believe that she is a great strategist and a great fighter, if not the greatest fighter. You know, there will be a point that Batman says that he is better than her. I don't remember when that is, but that does happen. Or wait, no, I'm sorry, that she is better than him. I didn't say that right. He says
Okay.
that, but I can't remember when or even in what series, but he does say it. So, but this kind of, maybe that's true of her fighting, but it doesn't seem to be true of her ability to think through stuff that's going to happen. So it could be just that the comic is trying to show this, she's trying to get into the real world, she's trying to be Batgirl, she has to deal with all these consequences where it's not so simple as a black and white, you punch someone, they're knocked out, and that's the end of it. There's always other stuff that happens, and she has to learn about that. But I don't feel like he's teaching her about that. So if the point is to say she needs to learn how to deal with that, then someone needs to help her with that part.
Yeah.
And just letting her beat dudes up is not helping her with that part. And now that she no longer lives with Barbara, she doesn't have Barbara to talk to regularly about it. But you're right, the pattern could be taken in a couple ways.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to work through it. I don't want to I like Cassandra, and I'm also hyper aware of Donovan listening to this and always defending Cassandra, but it just feels like because the same thing has happened and these people that she's trying to help, and it seems like she's failing in some way, even though a lot of it's out of her hands. Like, she did everything she could with Johnson. It was just Johnson made this mistake, which as an agent, I think he would have realized that he should probably get a track phone or destroy his phone. And then he dies. It's just like, are we trying to say that is she incapable, or is that too strong? Is it that she's still new to this and she's still working through? Because I think of Steph as Batgirl, or even Steph as Spoiler in this particular time period, that she made mistakes and she was working through. So maybe there's a bit of that. But to have this for the third time, she helps someone and that person dies, it's like, I'm ready for something else to happen. Is this what? And that's like pounding that character down. Like,
But I do want to, just as a contrast with Stephanie, but when it's Stephanie, Batman is just on her, like, you're
yeah,
the worst and you can't be Robin, blah, 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 you know, like but with Cassandra, it's like, okay, that dude died. Why don't you beat up these dudes?
yeah.
Like, no,
I'm
not
not
so
sure what,
much.
yeah, what that difference is there. Yeah, I'm not, I don't know what the lesson is for poor Cass, but she can only take so much of this kind of thing happening. I don't know how much someone could take before it just completely flattens somebody of I'm trying the best I can and it keeps not working for me. But I don't know if we'll get to that breaking point. It's been a while since I've read this whole series, so I guess we'll see. I passed over it, but do you think that Batman really is worried about Oracle's identity being compromised? I mentioned it in passing when I was talking about Barbara
That,
and her.
honestly, I can't see how he is, because she can cover her tracks better than anybody,
Yeah.
probably in Gotham. I guess he's talking about it like because the two of them go out in public together.
Yeah. As
So,
far as I know, because we have seen them take a day trip together.
so yeah, I think he's basically like, not only did you get this guy killed with your poor judgment of not thinking he would call his mother,
Yeah.
but you've now basically you're about to compromise Barbara's identity. Um, yeah, but the tone of it is not at all like the way he would talk to Stephanie
Mm-hmm.
under similar circumstances.
Yeah, and I just read a couple of those issues with Robin, so it's interesting. I mean, Stephanie was told where she ranks that she's never going to be as good as Cass, but she could be as good or better than Tim. So I guess that's high praise coming from Batman.
Well, yeah, I mean that. Yeah,
I guess we'll leave that for another time.
that's a different podcast.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, what would you give 1314? What should we say? I don't know, empty caves. Out of 10 empty caves, what would you give? Batgirl 1314.
It's tough because I think the story can be a good one, but I felt like I wasn't getting it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because instead of just immediately blaming the writer, normally I like the writer,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, well, it must be me. But I don't know if it's me. So I feel like I have to give it more like a 7.5.
Okay.
Because if I'm questioning the message and I'm feeling like Batman maybe isn't acting like his usual self, then I don't know. Doesn't sit right with me. What do you think?
No, I would agree. I'll give it a little lower and say 7 out of 10 empty caves. But I do agree that as hard as I am on Batman, I think this is a mischaracterization. But so he's making mistakes, but I feel like it shouldn't be what he would be doing. Okay. Well, here we are, friends. Are you prepared emotionally? Oh gosh, you took a seat. Do you need to take a drink of something hard?
Nope,
like
I'm all right. Let's go. Let's go.
Jim Beam? Okay, gonna share this screen because I mean, why not? Here we go. Derpa derpa. Are we on? You can see it? Okay. Okay, as with my reviews of or my plot synopses of late, it's laced with sarcasm and apathy, I suppose. Batgirl 48, aka 100, aka 203. Gordon's Never Give Up, Part 1. Writer Cecil Castellucci, artist Robbie Rodriguez, and colorist Jordi Belair. In a nightmare that I have only had after I've ingested shrooms laced with arsenic, Barbara Gordon is dancing. Here we are. Is dancing with the Joker. And also imagine several interactions between herself and her father and her brother, which is convenient for plot purposes to bring her brother in. Babs, or Babes, as we'll later see, wakes up in a hospital room and James is there, now named JJ. Jim couldn't get out of a court date, so we get the next best thing. James, of course. She kind of trusts him, but only enough to get to the roof to find her implant that she dug out of her spine. Oh, and if you're wondering how she got off the roof, it's because some kids on drugs found her and called the police, which I have some issues with, which we'll talk about. JJ and Babes go to her apartment where Jim is. Maybe we'll start calling him Jimmy. I don't know. And he starts yelling at JJ that he manipulated him into finding out where Babs was. And Babes says, "Screw you all. I can take care of myself," and goes off rolling up the stairs? Question mark. Outside, JJ and Jim argue further. Jim doesn't trust JJ and tells him to stay away from babes, and JJ tells Jim to stay away from booze. When did he become an alcoholic? I don't know. Because apparently he's Bullock now. Who knows? Interlude. Da 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 da. A Babes lookalike with a pink punk streak is attacked. End interlude. Okay. Babes wheels to the clock tower, sees some texts from Jason, ignores them, then gets to work on the implant. She knows she needs to, maybe I skipped too far ahead. She knows she needs help and she calls Luke, which is actually really annoying. And I have a personal story to tell if I remember. Oh, I made that note. Yes, I do have a story about that. So she calls Luke. She needs help. Luke comes right over and calls her Babes. I've got some stuff to say. She's broken. And he tries to pepper up. Look at this. Joker did me in again. Tries to pepper up. They work on the implant. Oh, heavens. I hope she makes it. They work on the implant, talk about living in the shadows of their fathers, and he conducts surgery. Ay, ay, ay. Then throws himself at her right there. Wow. She finally admits that she is dating Jason. Okay. Please note that this is the last time that this can be done with the implant. No joke. There is no next time with the implant. Your nerves won't take it. And we both know what it means if that happens. Okay. She says, I know, and I don't need it to work forever. Just for now, I'm fine without the implant. Okay, there you go. Okay. Moments after surgery. The gauze on her back is still bleeding, people. She is leaping from the rooftops. Because that one in
smile with a huge grin.
Because that one in a rip apart your stitches. I know. She is also muting conversations with all male parties. Because boy, yikes. I do have a point about that too. We also see scenes of Jim working out. He's eating some frozen meals. And then also JJ is ignoring messages from a timer, which reminds me of Rent. Remember AZT break? Beep, 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 beep. Yeah, which reminds me of that. That's the only positive thing I have to say. And then he gobbles down the pills like they're candy, which is kind of weird. I don't think you're supposed to do that with drugs. And then Batgirl gets to a crime scene. And Commissioner Bullock, he's now the commissioner, is there. They're thinking maybe they need Jimmy, but we see that the body is of the redhead that we saw with the interlude that looks suspiciously like Barbara, and now she's actually dressed in the Batgirl outfit. So next up, of course, is who killed Batgirl. And this whole thing reminded me of, though I was looking through so many other issues and researching that I sort of got lazy, but I feel like there's a Bronze Age tale where it's the Cormorant, I'm pretty sure, where like her old costume was hanging up and people thought that she had died. But I also thought that there was a lookalike Barbara who had been getting killed, or there was this guy that kept dating people that looked like other people, like her, and killed, but I didn't look it up. But anyways, here we are. Ma'am, you have the floor if you would like to go on your rage quit, or we could tackle it together. Your guest choice.
I could rant, but we can talk about different parts because there's so many different parts. I mean, to summarize how I feel, I don't know who these characters are, and I just want this run to end.
3 more issues. Well, 2 more now. 2 more.
But if we start from the beginning, I mean, I don't even know why you're bothering, not you, to do the dancing with the Joker thing, because then he's a complete non-entity. Like the last issue set it up like this great, Joker and Babs, arch enemies. They're really gonna, oh, okay, no more Joker. All right, he's gone. Well, I guess let's move on to the next thing. I mean, that was an awful lot of work to put into the Babs Joker dynamic and then just make it go away. So why even bother to have this panel here? Because it doesn't relate to anything else
Yeah.
in the issue. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, it looks cool. The colors are nice, but what? I don't know. And then that flashback page, I was like, whose life is this? But, right? So, but Barbara's uniqueness in the Bat family is she doesn't choose to be Batgirl out of trauma, right? She chooses it because she wants to do good. But apparently she grew up super miserable. And her father was a jerk to her, and her brother was a jerk to her. And then we pretty much go from there to James JJ shows up and she says something, she thinks he's lying. And then 2 panels later, she's like, well, what do I have to lose by confiding in him? And she says she has to trust him. No, you don't have to trust him. Then a few panels later, she thinks he's a sociopath. Then maybe don't trust him if he's a sociopath. You probably could call somebody else. I think you know other people in Gotham that you could call, like the way you call Luke Fox, like 5 pages from now. I don't know. So I just felt like in these, it's only, what are we, like 3 pages in now?
Yeah.
And I just felt like structurally, this didn't flow for me. In terms of the history of Barbara Gordon, it didn't work for me. In terms of continuity from the last issue to this one, it didn't work for me. And I don't find James Jr. remotely interesting. And so that Babs, who's supposed to be basically a genius, would be like, he must be lying. Oh, but I have to trust him. But he's a sociopath. It's like, would she really go back and forth like that in that way? I don't know. So, and right after that, it's like JJ and James Gordon are arguing, and this is not my James Gordon. I don't know who this dude is. And a lot of the dialogue was like, do people really talk this way? I don't know. There are some lines where I just felt like does a son say to a father, recently I helped you? Is that how people talk? Do fathers often say to sons, you are a monster?
Oh, I only say that to Sam Heath. I told someone to call him a monstrosity for me. So I do it, but not my son.
So, can we talk about like this part first before we talk about the Luke part?
Absolutely.
Because they
Yeah,
don't
split
really
it into
seem to go
pieces.
together, so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I will say, have you ever seen Silver Linings Playbook?
Mm-mm.
There is a part, in my favorite part actually, which is interesting given the whole thing. I'm sure someone else would pick it, but he is in bed reading A Farewell to Arms, and he finishes it and he says, what the and then he throws the book out of his bedroom window. It breaks the glass, and then it's like 4 a.m. He goes into his parents' bedroom and wakes them up and starts ranting about this. And so the entire time, because I think I texted you, I was on page 5 maybe, and I said, yeah, I just want to throw my laptop out of it. And you said, just, keep going, you'll want to do that. But it just felt that way. Like, again, I think I made a joke to Dawn that if I had a paper copy of 47, I would have ripped it on screen, which I would never do, because I take care of my things, and I feel like books and things deserve respect. But, a similar feeling here. Yeah, so if we start with this, Dawn said that I would probably curse like Ellie from The Last of Us with this. And yeah, I mean, again, who really wants these two associated? And again, I have to, why would you want to associate a victim with the victimizer? I just feel like that's sick, and you don't have, it's bad optics. But she's, I guess, a drug-induced dream. And I will say that it is beautiful. I mean, Robbie Rodriguez does some amazing things. And that splash page on the next, it
Wait,
is really well done. It's just terrible.
it
Yep.
is. But if you go back, okay, and scroll back,
Yep.
I feel like the top doesn't go with the bottom, because the top, it's like this, she's on the ground bleeding,
Yeah.
but she looks sexy. I have a problem with when those two things go together. And her
Sure.
breasts are the size of her head, which is not the
If it
case
is.
in the bottom part. Like in
Yeah.
the bottom part, I think that looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I don't like it story-wise, I think the
Yeah.
art looks really nice. And so
Yeah.
I just felt like the top and bottom of the page were dissonant to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it. I wondered if there was a slight reference to the 1989 Batman because there's that scene in Bruce's, I don't know, suite where Joker says, "You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?" So I wondered if there was an attempt at referencing that. But
Yeah,
I'm
I
glad you said
that way.
something about the boobies because that's your shtick on my show.
I do the boobies. I bring
You're
the
the
critique,
chief
and
breast correspondent.
that's me. I come with the feminist killjoy critique and the boobs.
There you go. That's fine by me.
And I would also
Um,
point out that the boobs on the cover behave in a way that boobs do not.
oh, because is this the U boob that we've talked about before?
I that's more of a steering wheel on a go-kart.
Oh my heavens. The things you come up with. Yeah, gravity, I guess, is not affecting them.
Hmm.
Maybe he drew I don't know who did this cover. Maybe he or she or they drew the cover and flipped it. Who did do the cover?
Maybe. I also did you think the cover was supposed to be referencing Jason Todd? I did.
Oh, yeah, because of the crowbar. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I don't really understand why she's hanging like that. I don't know what's happening.
Is that a Jason Todd reference too?
But wasn't he on the ground before the bomb went off in Death of the Family? Death in the Family?
I
He was
guess
just beating him
I
in the
can
ground.
picture more Batman. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to look back.
We'd have to be bat-splained. We'll be bat-splained by somebody else.
I'm sure.
Okay. So this, you bring up a good point. I was thinking, because yeah, I was reading this. Let's see, Jim saying "my house, my rules, you should never have been born." I thought, yikes, this is a bit rough. And then down here where he says, "Barbara, with your spine fractured, life as you know it is over." So my reading of it was, and this is I guess my hopeful optimism, that because she I think is at this point in the hospital and having a terrible dream, that they're perverted memories. So things that would have happened similarly, but she's kind of made it really terrible with everything that's happened. Or do you think this is legitimately a memory? I just feel like it's a dream that because of all the trauma that she's been through, it's sort of been perverted in her mind.
I think that's definitely a possibility, but I also think it's possible in this run that
Ooh.
that this is real
Okay.
because we have seen a different Jim Gordon that's been painted as not dealing as well with Barbara's disability.
Yeah.
And so if you translate that to James Jr., he's kind of doing the same thing. He doesn't know how to deal with a mental disability either.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple sort of nice-ish parts. I mean, Jim saying I have to keep Gotham safe, okay. But
I just don't ever really see him saying you should never have been born. And I guess
why? So, but if you're, I understand what you're saying, that everything here is a little perverted. Why would she remember it like that between the two of them?
I'm not sure.
And then at the bottom, he says, I'd trade my life for yours, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. So it looks really nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just feel like I didn't feel like this was Barbara's history as I had come to know it.
Yeah.
Even the new Barbara's history as I've come to know it.
Yeah. And this is similar to the last time you were on, or 2 times ago, when we were doing that weird Dragon Quest storyline. Do you remember that she was seeing everything in front of her again, and we were trying to piece together that history too?
Yeah.
So And we've got the photography imagery again, so
Yeah.
there's still that connection with the
Like
killing
Joe.
joke. But honestly, you're absolutely right about that. Initial page is transition. Let's transition to this. We've got Joker still connected, and then for plot purposes, we had to bring in James. So of course we're going to have this, but it is jarring to see, like, we were so focused on Joker, and now, we're moving on to James Jr. now, and this is how we're going to do it with this splash page.
And I would say that it's done as artfully as it can be done to make that transition, but it's still a jarring transition.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, Casucci was probably forced into doing the Joker thing, but I don't know, like, was she just told, okay, now you've got to write something about James Jr., JJ? A note about JJ. So Donovan asked me, and we can talk about Babes at the same time. Donovan asked me, has Babs ever called James JJ? And to my knowledge, and I looked through what's it called? The Black Mirror, because someone else asked me a question about ages, which I think there's a continuity error in here we can talk about. That, and I was also looking through Gail Simone's run, and then also it would have been Margaret Scott's run when the first tension between father and daughter popped up.
Mhm.
She has never called James JJ.
And has Luke ever called her Babes before?
So no, I was thinking the last time we saw Luke was the wedding of Joe and Alicia in Burnside, and I was thinking, I don't think so, but it sounds so familiar. So I went through that issue, and then I thought, wait a minute, someone has called her Babes, and I found it. Who is it? Who is the one? Frankie.
Oh,
Frankie is the one who called her Babes.
that's cute.
It is cute coming from Frankie, but not all of a sudden coming from an old love interest that we haven't seen.
No, I mean, if he called her that all along, okay,
Yeah.
fine. But not only does he say it here, he says it like 5 times.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I am confused about, this, whatever, the trusting and all of that stuff, she could do it on her own. And I also wondered, Jason calls her, and he knows she's in the hospital, but he doesn't go see her. That was a bit odd. But the whole dynamic between father, son, father, daughter, sister, brother is odd, because the last time we saw this, and I don't know if I'm missing something because I'm not reading all of Batman, James Sr. was really defending James Jr. when he was outside of the cell, and he said he's gone through this treatment. I have hope that he was really defending him, and she was rather vicious to him. If you remember, she was beating him up at his house. I don't know if you skipped this. And then he said to her, if you're going to kill me as my sister, not Batgirl. And she actually takes it off. And I'm like, what are you doing? But it's just like this role reversal that even there's like this fluctuation with her relationship with him, that kind of she's defending him or whatnot. But the whole father-son is completely different from what I had seen before. And to that extreme of calling him a monster, I thought, where have we changed? So this could be my issue of not reading outside of Batgirl, but this is something that should be explained then in Batgirl of why all of a sudden the father is not trusting the son when he had hopes for him and was defending him to his sister.
I'm not reading Batman right now either, so I can't speak to that. It just stuck out to me as last I looked within Batgirl, this was not the dynamic.
Yeah. Yep.
And I also wasn't sure if the thing about these druggy kids found you was a lie. Did you think it was a lie and James found her?
Oh, well, didn't
so random.
Didn't the nurse tell them though?
Oh.
She said, kids found you bleeding on the roof. They were high, but they did right by you.
Okay.
But I have an issue with that because they found her on the roof, but not the Joker. Okay. How would the nurse know they were high unless they were arrested? And also my thinking of, my only knowledge of people being high is on TV, but is that the fear of being arrested, they would not call the police. So that I thought that was interesting. And then it just assumes that the Joker ran away and didn't finish her off, which is also an interesting thought.
Okay. Well, I guess they could have called and sounded super high and then run.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's so many. We could talk page by page about all of this. Oh, there was one other thing. Was it this one? That he taught her how. I like thinking that I helped train you. Oh my, did you use the wrestling move I taught you to unpin yourself? Dad disapproved. He thought you were a porcelain doll, easy to break. I knew better. And then she says, I forgot about that. You did teach me a move or two. What? When in her history did he ever teach her anything? And when would she ever? She would have done that all on her own. What?
That's kind of the point of Barbara Gordon. She learns it on her own. And wasn't he too busy, torturing animals or something?
Yeah, and killing her friend when they were camping out or whatever in the Black
Yeah,
Mirror. Yeah,
no. Nope.
very bizarre. How do you
Nope.
think she rolled up those stairs?
Yeah, neat.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I think we're done. Well, I mean, with James, as far as I know, derpa derpa. So yeah, do you want to?
Talk about Luke and the
Yeah,
tech
we
and
shall do the Luke.
Jason.
So my personal story is, I remember it was probably either my second or third year in college. Someone Facebook messaged me or texted me, and I'm pretty sure what she asked for was milk. Like she said, do you have any milk? Which was really interesting because I hadn't heard from her for at least a year. And also the fact that I would have had to have brought the milk to wherever she was living. And so that's my frustration is I never tried to ask favors of people. I try not to anyways, because it sometimes puts people out, but especially of people that I've not interacted with for years plus. And here we have her, I guess it's a year. Well, it might be more, probably maybe 2. I don't know. When she's seen Luke and all of a sudden she's asking a favor. I don't like those types of people. But anyways, here we are. Would you like to, you go first, ma'am?
Okay, so I don't know why she's calling Luke
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to someone else. I think Frankie would have made more sense here, but maybe Frankie is not allowed to be used. I don't know. So I guess there's this sort of meta thing where Luke is like, you really shouldn't keep digging that implant out of your body, which is just sort of calling attention to how many times she has done it. And she's kind of like flirting with him while he's helping her. And then when he's done helping her, she's like, oh yeah, I like Jason. I don't know. Like she can't count on, she apparently has no female friends and she can't count on the Bat family and she can't count on her father. So she just like calls this ex-boyfriend. And the part that bothered me the most is they have this bonding moment over she doesn't know if, quote, everything and everyone in her life is worth saving. She says something like, I feel that way about,
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel that, who are you? Who are you? You're Barbara Gordon. You're the optimistic one that got into this to help people. I don't know who this is.
It's almost like something like, are we in the transition period of her becoming a villain? Like, Frankie, you're not worth saving. And then, let's cleanse it. Maybe she'll become an acolyte of Ra's al Ghul.
Cool. But I mean, I knew that Luke was supposed to be good at technology, but I did not know that he could perform delicate surgery. Did you?
No, ma'am. And I even wrote that this surgery scene is highly unrealistic. And I realized that we're reading comic books here, but she's not even strapped down. She has no, what is it called? Anesthetic?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she's wriggling around. Give me a break.
And then she just stands up.
Yeah.
And she's got all this blood on her. And then the next scene is she's all smiles. It's just like.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was fun to draw that splash page.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you're not the same lady as you were on the page before, are you?
Yeah.
Because I don't see how that could be. You are bleeding through all the gauze on your back. and someone just hooked your legs back up. No, 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 no.
Yeah. And the last time this happened was during the election campaign, and she was out. Like it took a couple weeks. I even think that he says like you need weeks to recover, and she's like, I don't have weeks. And so it's just, yeah, really interesting.
But she has all this equipment to sterilize scalpels and in her apartment? No, of course not.
Yeah. It looks like he has a soldering iron. That she at least has that.
Sure, sure.
And her wheelchair has handles. What do you think about that? I just noticed that.
I did not notice that. Thank you.
It's very tiny, but yeah.
The Barbara Gordon I know has pointed out numerous times that she doesn't want a wheelchair with handles because she wants to propel herself and not have anyone help her.
Yeah.
But this is not the Barbara Gordon I know.
Yeah.
And I understand that, someone may be watching this, listening to this and be like, why don't you critique the book in front of you and not the book that you'd like to see? Okay, I'm doing both.
Yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, how could anyone, potentially look at this and be like, yeah.
This isn't totally about, I want the character to be different. This is also about the characterization is not consistent.
Yeah. Yeah. I also just really hate this line where she is, Joker did me in again, and that posture and everything, which it's counter to what they're saying, that she survived everything and that she has overcome this trauma, and she's I think CBR or somebody comic book said something about she's the strongest member of the Bat family. Well, I don't know about this there. She's moping around, and yeah, so
yeah, Joker did me in again. That bothered me too. Again, because it's what was supposed to be so great about the previous issue is that she's victorious.
Yeah.
And also, if other times that she has faced the Joker, classic Barbara facing the Joker after her paralysis, there's one particularly resonant part of Birds of Prey. You're not going to get to this for a while, but he says something to her like, I took your legs, I took everything from you. Mm-hmm. And she just kind of gives him this look and goes, you took nothing from me. And then she proceeds to not only beat him up, but beat him strategically as well. Yeah. This Barbara is not doing that, but she could have been. Mm-hmm. There could have been a way for her to not just lean into the Luke hug, but to say, yeah, that was a tough situation, but I'm still here. He didn't beat me.
Mm-hmm. Do you take issue with the fact that she needed help in order to do this surgery, or is it just Luke?
I don't have a problem with Luke as a character. I just didn't understand why she called him. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that if in the last issue you're setting it up like Gordon's don't give up and all that business, then I thought if you're going to go down this road, it would be an interesting story to go down it by she is going to totally do it herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's no one she can rely on, right? She can't call anyone in the Bat family. She can't trust James Jr. Her father is absent. All right, well, I'm Barbara Gordon. Gordon, don't give up. I'm going to put a mirror behind me and I'm putting this thing on my back.
Yeah. So a potential positive is that maybe we're opening the door to Oracle, since we're really stating concretely that this is the last time that this sort of thing can happen. Do you think this is realistic? Is this just me wish fulfillment that Oracle could be on the doorstep, the threshold?
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I would like to see that. And I would be happy for Luke Fox to be, I think Luke Fox is a perfectly fine character. Mm-hmm. So I would be happy for him to be around.
Yeah.
And be part of her circle and be Batwing or whatever. But just there's a lot going on in this issue.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because as I was doing my research, I completely forgot about Jo, the now wife of Alicia. So it just goes to show you that she did have a pretty good cast of different characters and it was
Yeah.
just like thrown out there. And then when someone comes back, you're like, oh wow, it I think reinforces how much of a hole or a void she has in that life of minor characters and a cast surrounding her.
Yeah, it was kind of like when Gail Simone's Batgirl run started, and her circle, particularly of the birds, was just gone, and she just was sort of lonely and trying to figure out who she was in this new life that she had. And so I guess the issue I have overall is that was appropriate for that run, trying to figure out how to become Batgirl again. It's 9 years later.
Yeah.
And she's still trying to figure out how to become Batgirl.
Yeah.
I'm bored.
Yeah, same.
Do something else with this character.
Yeah. I think you and I should team write a book. Okay, we can be the second tier Benson sisters. My last point is about this and the communication that she has with the men in her life. So her dad is texting her saying, I signed you up for some physical therapy. I think it will help. I'm sorry I haven't been around. I'm going to change that. Jason keeps blasting her. Hello, how are you? Okay, maybe you need space. And then JJ, who had said something before, says, what the hell, Babs? Answer me. Answer me. I just want to talk. So I just wonder about the presentation of the men in her life. They seem whiny, clingy. I said incapable. Maybe we could say that. But is it poor characterization, or is this meant to like lift Babs up that, look at these men, aren't they annoying? But Babs, she's doing okay on her own. What do you think?
Well, I guess they're trying to show that she has these men in her life, but they all are serving different roles. Her father has been absent, but is trying to be more present. Jason is trying to be present, but is willing to respect her and give her space. JJ is just a jerk who only thinks about himself, or possibly a sociopath.
Yeah.
Or possibly he's all better. We don't know. So I think that this can be an attempt to show that there are these different things happening and these people all have different personalities and fit differently into her life. To me, it just felt like this is just showing me she has no friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I thought it was, as much as I would like to see her just like hang out with Dinah and the birds, I was pleased when Alicia and Joe and Frankie were invented, because I thought these seem like they could be interesting characters. They each bring something different to the table, and she's got a circle now.
Yeah.
Like a regular person. But so that's unfortunate, I think.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Kadir and Kadir's sister, was it like Nadia? I can't remember what her name was.
I want to say Nadima, but it might
Oh,
have been.
you might be right. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Forgot about them.
Yeah, I know. So did all the writers.
Yeah, I would have liked to keep them too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think probably what they're going for is these are these men in her life, but they're more difficult for her to deal with. And plus she's totally independent and she's got this.
Yeah.
So it's like terrible, terrible, terrible. I've just had major surgery. And then the next page is like, this is the greatest thing ever. I love jumping off a roof.
Yeah.
Which if you just had back surgery and regained the use of your legs, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you just read all these texts from these men in your life that are pressuring you. But I'm jumping off a roof. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, she loves a thrill, as we hear.
Yeah.
I just noticed on the back of her boots, she's got what is that?
I don't know.
That's the first time I've ever seen it.
I do not recall it before. It kind of looks like a gargoyle foot or something.
Yeah, like an extra toe.
Maybe it's supposed to be like a Hermes sandal.
Oh, yeah. But I don't know what functional purpose that would be unless she's like X-23 and can stab people from the back. I don't know. Do a Chuck Norris roundhouse kick.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I just, Jason is, my gosh, I just feel like he's clingy and I wish he were more capable. I mean, I don't really want them to be together anyways, but just the texting, it's just, who are you? You need to drop this guy, Barbara, in my opinion. But
Oh, I mean,
James, I feel like he's off kilter. You can
yeah,
kind of see that. So
yeah. But is it I don't know if Jason is really the problem. I mean, she makes no sense. I
it's
don't know
true.
why she hasn't been fired from.
Thank you. She's only a volunteer, so she should have been fired. Yeah. Maybe. Do you think Batman should fire her? Might be the one time that I might want him to. Who knows? And then, look at, are you intrigued? Are you ready to keep reading 2 more issues with this image?
Um, I am interested to know who this person is and who
Okay.
planted her there.
I don't
But
think she's anyone. I think it's just the body.
I wouldn't have read 47 and 48 if I were not
Yeah.
here with you.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. 2 more issues, Stella. 2 more issues. Okay. Well, out of 10 bats, what would you give this issue? Because here we are, ma'am, at the rating.
you go first.
I'm going to give it, oh, yeah. Okay. Let me think of this. I think I gave the other one a 2. I'll give this one a 2 as well. The reason why it's not a 1 is because, well, this is hard. Maybe I should give it a 3. Because the Joker's not in it. I don't know. It's not as offensive, but it's bad. So, I'll split the difference. 2.5. And mostly the high grade is because of Robbie Rodriguez's art.
The Joker is in it.
Yeah. Well, I meant in the case of like, this is all about the Joker. So it's
No, I
not,
get it,
yeah.
but not only and not just the dance page, but like we were saying on that flashback page. I mean, it's full on Killing Joke with the hat and the Hawaiian shirt and the pictures. Anyway, I'll say 2.
Okay. Okay. There you go. There you have it. So I don't know what that other person was thinking. 3.5 out of 5. Is that an 80? 80%? That's a high grade. And I gave it a 25%.
It's a 7 out of what 3.5 out of 5.
Oh, you're right. It's a 70. Thank you, ma'am. You're like the other half of my brain. Okay. Well, now over to Chris's cornucopia of curiosities, which you cannot see here. Thanks, Chris. And next up is the What Are You Wearing segment, which you already spoiled that situation. Yeah. So what I'm wearing, I actually literally was waiting to wear what I'm wearing until Carolyn was on here. So first of all, I've got the Baby Yoda.
Oh, so sweet. So
And then
cute.
also I have Star Wars shirt.
I can't tell what it is.
It's got little heads on it. Little heads.
Heads of what?
Heads of a Yoda.
Oh.
Trooper. There should be a Chewbacca and a Vader. So I tried to be thematic. And if you can see right there, there he is. There's that cute little guy. Yes.
Aww.
So he brings joy to our trouble readings and things like that.
I'm waving at it. And
you're about to take a nap. Okay. Now for everyone's favorite segment in this show, literature recommendations. So, Carolyn, what have you been reading?
Okay. Well, what I read most recently is N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy. The 5th season, The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky. Each of those books won a Hugo, which is unprecedented for every book in a trilogy to win a Hugo. And I can totally see why. It started off for me a little slow, but it is so rewarding. I mean, it's about everything. It's exactly what speculative fiction should be. I mean, it tells you, it is very imaginative in where it is, while also telling us a lot of stuff about ourselves and the world that we live in. So, I mean, I could not recommend it more highly. I would also recommend her current Green Lantern comic, which is Far Sector. Have you read that at all?
No.
No? Okay. Yep. So that's pretty good too. Very good. And speaking, so Far Sector, geez, I don't remember what number it's up to, but it's pretty self-contained. And another self-contained comic that I want to recommend is Gene Luen Yang and Gurihiro's Superman Smashes the Klan. This is just, it is the kind of book that reminds you why Superman is so great and what Superman is supposed to stand for. And it's about, it's kind of about everything too, but it's really about Superman standing up for the little person, as he always does. Great art, and a great story. In terms of fiction, I also read Viet Thanh Nguyen's The Sympathizer, which is, I mean, on paper, it's about a Vietnamese man who is kind of a double agent for both sides in the Vietnam War, I guess is the best way to put it, but it goes kind of up through the present day. So there is political stuff in there, but it's really just it's more about humanity. And it's also about representation, and it's about immigration, and it's about all kinds of things. I think it won the Pulitzer, which was totally deserved. And lastly, I want to recommend this year's Eisner Award winner for academic scholarly work, which is called EC Comics: Race, Shock, and Social Protest by Kiana Whitted. And it's really about how some early EC Comics, horror ones in particular, and crime ones, really kind of, in some ways, had sort of more progressive things to say about race and about empathy than a lot of the peer comics that were out at the time. And then I do feel like it's sad I had to actually write this down. I would have forgotten if I hadn't. And that's just to say again, I would kind of recommend my own book that just came out, which is called Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel: Militarism and Feminism in Comics and Film. And if you are going to get it right now on the publisher's webpage, Routledge, it's cheaper than Amazon. The ebook is $17 on the Routledge page, and it's $10 to rent it for 6 months, which is basically like 2 comics. What have you got to lose? And again, nobody buy the hardcover. Tell your library to buy the hardcover. Don't buy the hardcover.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if they would. How expensive is the hardcover through the publisher?
Right now, it is $48 instead of cover price of $60.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Okay. Yikes.
No, honestly, don't do that.
Okay. Okay, so here we go. I had to start my notes as always. What's the last one that I mentioned? So here's one that many people praise, and I'm always suspicious of those. It was okay. It's called Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Have you heard of this?
I have heard of it, and it's kind of on my list of things I should read because people say I should read it. Is it good?
It was okay. I mean, you should form your own opinions. It wasn't, when people are like, oh, it's so good. I didn't have that feeling for it. Like Nightingale, which you should read by Kristen Hanna. I mean, that's but anyways, for years, rumors of the Marsh Girl have haunted Barkley Cove, a quiet town on the North Carolina coast. So in late 1969, when handsome Chase Andrews is found dead, the locals immediately suspect Kia Clark, the so-called Marsh Girl. But Kia is not what they say, sensitive and intelligent. She has survived for years alone in the marsh that she calls home, finding friends in the gulls and lessons in the sand. And it does go back and forth because you see her grow up, and she's on her own from like year 10 years old, and she can't read. And then someone teaches her how to read, and she actually ends up publishing a book on the native creatures and things around there. And then you find out about this murder. It's investigated. Rick Steves' Europe Through the Back Door by Rick Steves. That was fun. I mean, I'm trying to finish my Rory Gilmore's list. So that was on there. And it's weird out of context to read all of this stuff. So if I decide to do European travel, I will definitely pick that up again. A comic story was Marvel's Spider-Man. So based off of the video game, The Black Cat Strikes by Dennis Hopeless. Then Twilight. So in the previous episode, I said that I rewatched all of the Twilight films, and I found out by accident that 10 years, the 10-year anniversary, I'm not sure when that would have been, Stephanie Meyer, I guess it would have been 2016. There you go. Stephanie Meyer rewrote it, kind of, and she gender flipped all of the characters. This is called Life and Death Twilight Reimagined. And there's a bit of a twist at the end as well. So all of the characters from Twilight have the opposite gender, with the exception of Bella's parents, Renee and Charlie. They keep their own, their same genders, because she considered that mothers often get custody over men. So it wouldn't make sense for like that to all of a sudden change unless there was a good reason. So it's Beaufort Swan, and Edith Cullen. So that was funny. Then I read The Only Life That Mattered, The Short and Merry Lives of Anne Bonny, Mary Read, and Jack Rackham, but I think it's Calico. Yeah, Calico Jack Rackham by James L. Nelson, aka Elizabeth Garrett, the pseudonym formerly published as, which is about those pirates, which was exciting because I had recently watched Black Flag. Okay, here we go. Fly Away by Kristen Hanna, which is the sequel or part 2 to Firefly Lane. I can't really talk about it because it will spoil the first one, but just know that it's really, really sad for a great amount of it, and then it gets up at the end. And so I've been working at an oncology clinic now. I'm kind of a bouncer, a COVID bouncer, if you will. And someone, I can read a lot because I just have to ask them questions. And someone asked what I was reading, and I had to explain, oh, this is part 2. And I said, you have to be careful with the author because the author makes you run through the emotional gamut. And she said, yeah, I'm trying to read uplifting things. And I was also thinking, yeah, I'm working at an oncology clinic. I don't know that I would recommend Kristen Hanna for some of these people. I reread Macbeth, which you can catch on Required Reading. That will come out in September by William Shakespeare. And then our final one is Willa of the Wood by Robert Beatty. And I really like Robert Beatty for his Serafina series, so I gave this one a shot. I like Serafina still, I think, a bit more, but this one was nice. And it has, I felt like, some themes of individualism versus collectivism in a group and society, and conservationism. And yeah, so it follows this girl, Willa, who's a Faerin, Faeran, I think it is. And it's during the 1900s in the Smoky Mountains. Mm-hmm. So, and Serafina took place at the Biltmore estate. So it's always around there. And then now we have, no, I've not finished this, but we're now going to perform a scene based off of a texting conversation that we've had. Let's see what you can do here. But it's because of this book that Carolyn recommended to me, and I trust her. So I listened to her recommendations, called City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. You ready for it to conduct this scene? Carolyn, I'm reading City of Girls, and this is my thought. Angela. Angela's talking. Angela. What was it? What's her name? Vivian. Now that my father is gone, I would like to know what your relationship is with him. Vivian. Well, Angela, let me tell you my life story. And then you said what?
I said she is answering the question.
Okay. And then I said, Carolyn, that would be like if you asked me to tell you about Barbara Gordon, and I said, well, let me tell you about the first time I read a comic.
Yeah. That is answering the question.
Oh man, I am not finished. I have 3.5 hours left, it says on my audiobook.
Oh,
it's still, well, where I am now, I'll give you context since you read it. She has returned to New York. It's after World War II, okay. And she has just started the wedding dress shop with her friend. That's when I ended today. So still nothing. And I mean, she mentions to Angela popped up. She's like, Angela, you probably know all about this. I'm like, how does she know? I'm just waiting for whoever this is. I don't normally, but I have to say I would almost choose the audiobook over the book because the actress is amazing.
Oh.
Just her sense of humor, how she presents everything, and when her voice goes up into a higher register with some things, it's really fun. So I highly recommend that. But I'm having fun with it so far. I mean, you could have warned me about the threesome, but you.
It didn't make much of an impact on me because
I guess not.
It really did not have that much to do with the main threads.
What do you mean? It broke up? It basically sent her home to northern New York?
No, it's I didn't mean it that way. I mean that the actual event itself is not that important. important, right? What's important about it is that she gets sent home,
Yeah.
and it's telling you something about the mores of the time and whatever. But the actual thing is not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I get that. Luckily, I'm not listening to it on speaker so people can hear all this stuff, but I am enjoying it. Well, thank you for your literature recommendations. And we are now wrapping this up. So we've already heard twice now what your new book is. Where can people, well, I said it at the beginning, you said it again, but where can people find you and support you?
Well, if people want to get hold of me, the best thing is email, which is my last name and first initial, cocac@oldwestbury.edu. And as Stella may have mentioned once or twice, I do have a Twitter account, which is at Carolyn Coca, but honestly, I never use it. I mean, I will occasionally look to see if anybody has mentioned me and like I should contact that person. So if you do that, I will see it eventually, but I'm not gonna tweet.
Heavens. Yeah, I feel like I might be the only one who consistently mentions you on Twitter, even though I know that you're not going to respond.
That's
But
actually not true. It does happen more than you think.
oh,
But
okay.
I can say that
Yes.
it's because of Stella that I broke my years old seal.
She did.
Yeah.
What was that? What did you do?
I hit the like button. Yep, first time. I swore I would never do that either, but I figure, okay, I will, just for Stella, I will use the like button.
That's crazy. I hope you can contain yourself and not go further.
I don't know. Now that I've broken the seal, who knows what might happen?
Indeed.
I'm just going to like stuff all over the place. It'll be
Okay.
anarchy. Cats and dogs living together.
Oh, noes. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. I'll wrap it up. So remember, you can send any questions or comments to backrolltooracle@gmail.com or contact Carolyn about anything that you may find reprehensible that she said here. You can also find the show on Google Play and Stitcher, like the show on Facebook, or follow it on Twitter @backrolltooracle. Subscribe to the show on YouTube for an uncut version, which you will get with my laughing. You can see me laugh. Follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well, and support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Backroll to Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen next. I feel like it's Donovan for Ghost and Backroll, Ghost/Backroll. I don't know what it's called. But if I can get my stuff together, I might be able to talk to you later this month about your new book.
Well, I'm around. Like everybody else, I am not leaving my house.
Yeah.
So my time is pretty flexible.
Okay. So yeah, I'll figure. How many pages is it?
Oh, I should have mentioned
Oh.
it's a short book. It's part of this new series of short books that they're trying to like turn around more quickly, so they're more timely. So it's 100 pages.
Wow. Now that $48 to $60 seems exorbitant. Okay, interesting.
That's for libraries.
How many chapters does it have?
If you count the introduction and conclusion, it's 5 chapters.
That's
but really, the core of it is 3 chapters.
Okay. So you might be seeing Carolyn again, and on that one, we'll be having a serious and professional tone, no laughing. Okay. Okay. Well, until then, whatever happens.
Fly on, Babs lovers.
Thank you.
Thank you.